And so, getting back to that phone call, so how did you respond to that phone call that you had?
I was I was actually not sure whether to believe it or not, Ruth. I mean, you get a lot of phone calls from people trying to sell you things at all hours of the day and night. So when you get a call from someone like this, as I say, it's at 7 p.m. Telling you that they'd like to speak with you because essentially you've been doing the wrong thing using your vegetation. It came as a bit of a shock, and I wasn't sure whether to believe it or not. It certainly unfolded over the following weeks that it wasn't a hoax. So,
That's incredible. My understanding of those vegetation management laws is that they're, they're, the minister has a lot of power. And now, who was the person that called you? Did he work for the minister, or he's got to be some government employee of some sort?
that's right. Yeah, it's the Department of Natural Resources and Mines that administer Vegetation Management Act, and ironically, they are the same department that administer property in Queensland.
Right. Yeah, so yes, my understanding of those laws are that those laws don't meet the United Nations Protocol on Civil and Political Rights. And this is part of the reason, in my view, that we do have a human rights crisis unfolding in the bush, with laws that remove your ability to use your property the way you see fit. And the reasons they give is because, well, it's good for the environment, but it turns out that the actual consequence of locking up vegetation is quite bad for the topsoil, bad then for the life that depends on that topsoil and the grasses, and it's bad for your business. Um, Now, I heard your interview with Alan Jones earlier this year, and you mentioned that we have a legal system, not a justice system. Can you tell us perhaps a little bit about that?
Well, what we have here in a case like mine is a situation where I have the legislated right to use my vegetation. Okay, this land is classified by government as grazing land, and given that
Right.
I own this property freehold fee simple title, I do have, through a range of legislation, I have the legislated right to the use of the vegetation. However, the government have also brought in this Vegetation Management Act as a separate thing, and they say that it overrides my my property rights, and therefore my property rights are extinguished, and I don't have the right to use my property. It's quite a complex issue, but I can give you a bit of an example, Ruth. A part of this property, we have two separate properties that are adjoining. One of those blocks, we actually purchased that from the state government. So, and we done that in 2003. Now, ironically, as you know, in any type of commercial transaction, parties have a duty of care to inform both parties of what's going on in the deal. Now, we purchased one of these
Mm.
properties from the state, and at that time, they made no mention whatsoever that we would have no right to use the vegetation. Therefore, according to law, in that freehold fee simple title, in that deed of grant, we bought the right, we paid for the right to use the vegetation. So it's a very dangerous precedence that's being set here, Ruth, that could have extremely damaging implications for anyone in any industry with any property.
Yeah, exactly. The government is in fact stealing from you. They're not giving you compensation for the property that
No.
they want to turn it into a national park or a state park, and they don't want to give you any money.
Well,
That's
that's right, Ruth. But and as I say, in in purchasing the property from them in that way, where they have failed to disclose the fact that they wish to maintain the rights to the vegetation, they're actually committing fraud, because they're essentially selling something with no intention of delivering it. And then should you have the audacity to exercise your right of ownership, they will deem you a criminal.
Yes, yes, I've read something about those laws that the minister and the authorized officer have tremendous power, which runs counter to any sense of justice. I mean, face it, if you get a speeding ticket, that doesn't mean you're guilty. It means that you can go to court and challenge that speeding ticket. But my understanding is, if you're given this order, you're assumed guilty. The presumption of
Absolutely.
innocence is gone. Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Precisely. And as Ruth, those laws were made much tighter in April this year. You know, in March here, that's the current government pushed through some more restrictive legislative amendments, and that was implemented, in April. So the regime that we work under now is much tighter than it was prior to the 8th of March.
Yes, yes, I understand. That's just incredible, and it's tough enough. I mean, farmers, graziers, stand on the border between chaos and order and try to produce our food for us. And it's bad enough having Mother Nature in the form of a drought and the banks in the form of bad practice interfere with farmers. But you know, not only that, you have to fight the government as well.